Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie from the Farmhouse Mom, and in today's video we are going to do a little gardening. I'm going to share with you our 3 new raised beds that we added and also talk about what we did to the boards to make them rot resistant. We used an ancient Japanese method, and we also transplanted some elderberries from our wild and native elderberries here on the farm, and we did get a chance to plant a few of our raised beds. So thank you so much for being here, and let's go ahead and get started. If you watched our video from last week, you know that we have 3 raised beds that we have been gardening in for a year or two. And last weekend, we were able to add 2 very large raised beds. We added a 5x10 and an 8x10. And we finished the garden off this weekend with 3 5x5 raised bed gardens. We have been trying to make these raised beds as economical as possible. And so far, they have just been free because we have been able to salvage wood from our old barn. We are using the hugelkultur method of filling most of the beds with rotted wood from our forest, and we have free soil and compost from our animals. However, when my husband went down to the barn, he didn't feel like there was enough wood to make 3 more uniform beds. If it is in your budget to purchase wood for your raised bed gardens, of course, cedar is the best. However, we are really sticking tight to a budget. We are working hard to be debt free. So we went with some pine boards. We bought 12 boards for $122. They were 1x6s and they were 10 feet long. Untreated thin pine boards in this state are going to rot fairly quickly in the ground. So we used a Japanese method called Shao Sugi Ban, and I believe it's also called Yaki Sugi. What that method entails is charring and burning the wood. This method makes the wood really strong and also pretty rot resistant. So what happens when you burn it is all of the moisture is drawn out of the wood by the high heat, and then the grain seals together. So you're left with some charred wood. We took a brush and brushed all of that excess char off. We also kind of rubbed it in the cracks to seal it, and then we rubbed the whole thing down inside and outside with some teak oil. In addition to our 3 new raised beds that completed our garden, we also had another addition this weekend. My beautiful little girl Bianca gave birth to 2 gorgeous baby boys. I generally always want girls when they are born. However, my star buck has been requested to go back home to his original farm. So his owner really misses him and she would like to use him again. So I was hoping to get a really gorgeous boy to replace my little bean. And these boys are so beautiful. Look at his cute little booty with 2 little spots on it. He's just so cute. So I was so thrilled with the body condition and the look of these boys. They're so gorgeous. So we generally sell our boys right away and keep most of our girls. However, I'm going to keep these boys for the season. This little fella is named Noah in honor of one of my husband's business partners. He has been requesting to have a goat named after him. So Noah, this is your namesake. He is a very strong, strapping little boy, and he is so cute. We're so happy to have him. I thought you also might want a little update on our little girl that was born 2.5 weeks ago. She was born on my sister's birthday, so her name is Cassandra, but we've been calling her Kiki. She's so big just after 2.5 weeks, and she is doing fantastic. All right, so we're going to go back to the raised bed gardens, and it was more economical. Instead of buying a very wide board, it's much more economical to buy a thinner board. And so we have the 6 inches, and then we added the board on top of it. And just like with our other raised beds, my husband used supports. He only put them in the corners because the bed is a shorter size. It's 5 foot instead of 10 feet. And so we just needed them in the corners, and it turned out to be a really nice, sturdy bed. He also rubbed it down inside and out with some teak oil to make it nice and moisture resistant. One of the homeschooling activities that I do with my 5-year-old son is take nature walks, weather permitting, and there were so many fawn lilies out in the forest. They were so beautiful. I missed everyone in the comment section last Friday. I was not able to make my thrifting video, Friday Finds. We did have a hospital visit with Jackson. He had a respiratory issue, and it is much better now. He's 100%. I'd like to thank Sarah and Annette and Joanne and Kirk for all of your well wishes. I love my wildflowers and my native trees just as much as I love my cultivated garden. Our wild violets are growing beautifully down by the creek, as well as our jonquils. And something that I have been wanting to do over the winter that I didn't get the chance to do was to transplant some of our wild elderberries. So Jackson and I went down to our elderberry patch. I have several elderberry patches throughout the farm, but most of them are hard to get to because we have a lot of brambleberries. This is the one that is pretty accessible. So my thought was to take some cuttings of this tree and transplant them down by the creek where my other patch of elderberries popped up naturally on its own. It obviously loves growing there, so instead of finding a different place, I thought, why don't I just follow Mother Nature and make my accessible elderberry patch right where it's already growing by the creek. Last year, as I was harvesting the elderberries, I tried to take note of how much sun they were getting, and it was very interesting because we have 2 deep ravines, and one elderberry patch is full sun, and that one produced fine. And then the second elderberry patch, the one that I was just at, is very shaded and produced well. This is my new section down by the creek, which is shaded. This is the other new section by the creek, which is not shaded. So it is my observation, at least on my farm, that the amount of water has a lot more to do with the amount of sun. So I cut my elderberry cuttings in 6 to 10 inch sections, and I just shoved them right into the ground right by the creek so they can get lots of moisture. I'm hoping at least half of them start, and then I can transplant them where I want them to be. But this is going to make a very maintenance-free little nursery area for me that I am not going to have to water at all. While I was busy transplanting my elderberry cuttings, Jackson and Rosie were busy playing follow the leader in the creek. They were having such a great time. And then Rosie took Jackson down to her little animal area where she has been on the lookout for a little groundhog that we have. And they looked today, but the groundhog would not come out. So we made our way back up to the garden, and we decided to start planting some of our raised beds. So the average frost date in Missouri, the last frost date, is generally mid-April. We usually always get a frost past that. However, we have lots of old windows, if you saw that in the last video, that we're going to use to make a greenhouse area. So until we get that greenhouse built, I'm gonna plant my tomatoes and my peppers right now, and when we see the frost coming in the weather, we're going to be able to just stack up those windows so we can avoid any frost. It's always better, obviously, to start your plants inside, but I am just not good at doing that. I generally start them and I don't water them regularly. I don't give them enough access to light, and when it comes time to harden them off, it just never works for me. So I'm going to do it this way. It's probably not recommended, but because we have so many windows, I think that we're going to be fine for the frost this spring. I was able to fit 13 tomato plants in our 10 by 5 garden bed, and instead of writing the name of the plant and putting it in a stake in the ground, which I always lose, I'm keeping a farm journal this year. I actually have 4 different journals. One is for my YouTube ideas, one is for my goats, one is for my home projects, and one is for the farm. So I drew a diagram and I wrote down each of the different varieties that I am going to plant and grow. And it's also going to give me the opportunity to take notes throughout the growing season and from year to year see which varieties do best in our clay soil and which varieties that we really enjoy. I was able to fit 13 pepper plants in one of the new 5 by 5 beds. I planted 4 cayenne plants. I really love growing them and drying them and then using them as spice. And of course, jalapenos. We love fermenting jalapenos. They are so mild when you do it that way. It is my favorite way. More than canning, fermenting is amazing for the jalapenos. The new pepper plant that we are trying out is the Sugar Rush Red. So this is supposed to be a very, very sweet pepper with an accompanying very spicy heat to it. So I'm really looking forward to that pepper, and I definitely will let you guys know as it matures how it tastes. So this weekend we were able to finish all of our raised beds, so that part is complete, and we probably only need 4 or 5 more loads of rock to finish off all of the area around the raised beds. Next up in the ground will be onions and potatoes, and our lavender starts are already starting to peek their little heads up above the soil. And so after we are finished with our raised bed area, we will be moving down and starting on making the lavender area for our new lavender farm. Even though we still have a few areas yet to complete, where the arches, when you walk in the garden, I'm going to grow peas and beans on each side, or maybe some zucchini, but you can see that grassy area there. I'm going to plant in the ground on that side, and then this side is where I'm going to put my sweet peas. But even though it's not finished, I think it is looking very manicured and very neat, and I'm so looking forward to our growing season.